And a very good evening to you. Welcome to Politics 101 on a Thursday evening. Quite a day today. The visit by the uh, minister, the Secretary of State of the United States of America to Guyana, the second visit by a Secretary of State of the United States to Guyana. The tongue was, of course, as you know, closed down whenever these dignitaries visit. The tongue these days are closed down, but there were people out there um, welcoming the Secretary of State and reminding him that Guyana is such a nice place as it may look from the outside. So, welcome all of you down to Politics 101. The issue, of course, continues to be the uh, surrounding the minister. People have not bought the settlement. In fact, one of the placards today said that resignation is not resolution. That caught my eye. Resignation is not resolution. Of course, we called for the resignation of the minister, but many of us felt that that should have been the first thing that should have been done, that the minister should have resigned and allowed the investigations to go on. But the minister was cleared, and then he resigned. He was quote unquote cleared. And as we said, this whole matter brings into question the rule of law, the abuse of power, the manipulation of the system of investigation. And in law and constitutional law, we talk about equality before the law. Now we have to talk about inequality before the law. The way this minister was treated from beginning to end, put on station bail, you know, investigation botched, you know. It seems as though there's no equality before the law. The child was not allowed or citizenship rights. So it brings into full display the question of citizenship, what it is to be a citizen of Guyana. Our citizenship right is not just confined to voting. It's confined to equal protection before the law. The law is supposed to protect all of us and to do that equally. The right to own property, that is part of citizenship. And we see property is being mowed down. The very citizenship that we fought for is under duress. Are we equal citizens in Guyana? Good evening to all of you. If you're joining us from Guyana, as I said, I was out there today, went out and was part of the group that, I don't want to say protest, but part of the group that was out there to draw to the attention of the visiting Americans that all is not well in our Guyana, that we are becoming a petrol state, but lots of stress and instability. Usually instability comes from the dissenters. In our case in Guyana, the instability is coming from the governors. So it was good to be out there, and I want to thank all those of you who spoke with me, all the Politics 101ers, and I know many of you said that you will be on. Don't miss an edition. And it was so good to speak to ordinary people, not big university people, ordinary people who take an interest by their own testimony, take an interest in what's going on in our country. And it was so nice to meet many of you in person, able to shake hands and to chat for a little. And those of you who passed in your vehicles and recognized us and honked and so on, it was wonderful. Those of you who are joining us from outside of Guyana, in our Caribbean, it's still CARICOM week. The CARICOM meeting this year attracted, of course, the Secretary of State of the United States, the Secretary General of the United Nations. So very busy time for our region, our Caribbean, but troubled times for our Guyana. You're joining us from the United States of America. Good evening. Good evening if you're joining us from Canada, the United Kingdom, England, Europe, wherever you're joining us from. A very good evening to you and welcome to today's program. We're having tonight Khemraj Ramjattan. As you know, Khemraj was one of the lawyers attempting to represent the child who made the accusations against the minister. So Khemraj is going to give us a kind of bird's eye view about what went on. We noticed that charges were laid against the Child Protection Agency for apparently being in collusion with those forces which were determined to jettison the investigations into this matter. Of course, Khemraj is a lawyer, so we're going to get some legal perspective tonight also. So we're going to get some political perspective, some legal perspectives, and we're going to get some testimony from Khemraj about what happened when they attempted. I know attorney at law Todd also attempted to represent the young child at our request. What happened? So we're going to get some bird's eye testimony. So again, welcome all of you to Politics 101. Today, they also named the mayors and deputy mayors of Georgetown and Linden. I know Sharma Solomon is now the mayor of Linden, and Mr. Mentor. Gosh, I've been threatening since Mr. Mentor was the deputy mayor. And I kept, whenever I meet him, apologizing. Months now, I promised to invite him to come on, but now he's mayor. He's mayor, and we're going to try to get him here as quickly as possible. Lost the seat by a couple of votes, didn't get a recount, but got on to the council via the top-up votes, as they call them, the PR votes, and is the new mayor of Georgetown. I didn't get who the deputy mayor and mayors and so forth, but Sharma Solomon, mayor of Linden, and Mr. Mentor, Alfred Mentor. He played some cricket, I remember, and I think Khemraj remembered too, because Khemraj was a cricket man. I think it was MYO. He's the mayor, the new mayor of Georgetown. So welcome to Politics 101, and let's get rolling. Let's bring on right away Khemraj Ramjattan. Khemraj, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Hines, and I'm glad to be on your show again. Yes, I was a kind of so-called cricketer. Couldn't bat, couldn't bowl, couldn't field, but I used to love the game so much and felt that one day I'm going to be a big cricketer, but really couldn't. But this mentor, Alfred, was a very good cricketer for DCC
Yes.
I was better at administering, and I was vice president and president at Gandhi Youth Cricket Club for a
Gandhi. I
number
said
of years.
NYU is Gandhi. Right, right, right.
Yes.
I remember you at Gandhi. Well, it's a story, you know. We all West Indians have some story to talk about cricket. You know, as as a youngster, I used to be at school. I used to be a commentator. I couldn't get onto the team, and then I was the commentator. I would go wherever the boys are playing, where our school is playing, and I was the commentator. And then later on, you know, in my late 20s, being around the game so much, I eventually got onto the team. You know, the boys used to wake me up any hour of the night to answer cricket questions. Who made so many runs at such and such a time? So we all had some kind of relationship with the game. It shows that the game is more than a game for us West Indians. Khemraj, reflect a little bit on the local government election, because of course your party, like my party, did not participate in the elections, and we saw the elections and what eventually became much more than just an election. Reflect a little bit on the election now that it's over and looking back.
Well, as I had said in an earlier program, I am very happy that indeed the local government elections was called, although very unhappy that it took such a long time after that 3 years that it was due. But indeed it was called. And we did not participate because we thought that within that period of time, right up to its calling, that at least the priority issue would have been resolved. And that is two issues: getting the constituencies properly demarcated and delineated, and also this voters list free from the dead people, the people that had gone overseas, and a whole lot of other difficulties and so on that we found with the list. And so we didn't enter into the elections. Strategically, too, local government elections will always be difficult for a third party, knowing that you have two strong um, ethnic forces, as it were, the PPP and the now called APNU, who largely are going to get, even in the constituency, what you call the constituency system, first past the post constituency system, they're going to win one of the two. And also, you're going to have at the PR level too, one of the two winning. And so even when you go in, you really got to do a big flake off, as it were, as a third party to get councillors. And we also saw it in that context and realized that it might not be in our best interest. But it was basically the delineation of the list, constituencies, and the list. Reflecting on it now, well, fine, it happened, and we will have new mayors, we'll have new councillors in the various NDCs and municipalities. And, well, we should be proud of those candidates who won, both PPP, APNU, and even the independents who ran and won. And it is a very important thing that in this kind of atmosphere, in a very polarized system, the independents can bring at least that quality about their councillorship that can see that the benefits and the needs that are to be dealt with at the municipal local government tier, that yes, indeed, they can put some at least pressure and influence to ensure that their communities benefit. As to the results, knowing very well the huge amount of money that was poured into it by the People's Progressive Party, led by none other than, of course, its General Secretary and Vice President in government, I think it's in the vicinity of more than a couple $1 billion, that the success that they had anticipated, I am certain that they did not anticipate that they were going to do badly in their areas. And as a matter of fact, APNU did not contest in a lot of the NDCs that we know that are PPP strongholds. But they really made an effort to win New Amsterdam, Linden, and Georgetown. And with all the monies they spent in these constituencies, that is the municipality of Linden, Georgetown, and New Amsterdam, it showed that they do not have the support of these people. They lost pretty badly. Not that they lost in the sense that they didn't win seats. They won seats. I think they won 11 seats or 10 seats in Georgetown, and 19 was won by APNU. But they really felt, and I know this because I speak to a lot of the PPP people who are my comrades still. I still have some respect for some of them, much respect for others, and little respect for a few of them. So I spoke to them and they said they are going to do well. Barrett Jack, they want to prove that his generalship or generalismo is going to ensure that they win. But it did not. And I'm glad that in the three constituencies, that is the municipalities of Linden, Georgetown, and New Amsterdam, that did not happen. And so I know that Jagdev especially and the PPP, they are pretty, stunned by the results because they really felt that lots more of their people will turn out. They got lots more PPP supporters in these three constituencies, in these three municipalities.
Yes.
But it didn't turn out. And as I have been saying on my Burbies programs, as I've been saying in all the other programs with Charles Sugrim, yourself, and even Mark Benchcoff and so on, the people within these constituencies, as all across the country, even within PPP support bases, they hate what is happening. They hate especially the belly politics, whereby the cost of living is so high. They can't buy the goods to ensure that the children and so on can have 2 meals a day. And they tell me about it. And I got family members within some of these communities. And they're telling me how difficult it is. And the other things that we know as politicians a little more is the governance issues, the big corruption, not abiding by the rule of law, especially in the Dharamlal case, and so on. And a number of other big issues that when I ask Burbisians on the Burbies show, please do not turn up. At some point, although you're PPP supporters, you must put the red line to them that you don't come for my vote now that elections is here and I must turn up for you. You haven't turned up for me. The cost of living is still high. Inflation eat out all of the purchasing power from the little income we just get from rice and cotton cane. And even for those self-employed people all across Barbies and so on. And I think they listened. They listened and they did not turn up. And that is what has struck them. And that is why there is serious deliberation now and analysis going on in the PPP. Additionally, I will tell you that even APNU got to be a little concerned about their turn-up too, their turnout. But I must say that they tried their best with the little resources that they had. I am aware because a number of them came and asked for, even the independents that ran and so on. And so you know that they were in bad financial shape. And to that extent, knowing that as a disadvantage, they still managed to pull off these 3 municipalities that got a lot of people. But everybody should be concerned. We have to, as an opposition, ensure that certain strategies are worked out now and start in preparation for the 2025 elections. Major decisions will have to be made. And of course, decisions in connection with a lot of issues, because we know that the people out there are very vexed about what is happening with the country. We had ensured that this country is not going to be starved of monies. That oil agreement that we signed with its imperfections, and I noticed that even Raphael has come out with a book now explaining the circumstances that led to first the negotiation and secondly the conclusion of that and completion of that agreement. And I have said it. At the time when we signed that agreement, indeed, it is the best economic decision we could have come to. Lots of people still vex with us and vex with the government then, but whatever, especially the PPP government. But they had told the same Barbicians, they had told the whole country that this rotten agreement that the government of the APNU AFC have signed on to, as soon as we get into government, we're going to make it better by renegotiating and reviewing it. They lied to all of them. That must have caused some Barbicians to also vote for them, because they're going to get a renegotiated contract. That was part of their campaign message. That was their manifesto message. And now they said, Jagdev himself, we can't renegotiate. We can't do nothing about it and all of that. And he's even doing worse in relation to the environmental issues that we were very strong on with a champion in the name of Dr. Vincent Adams. He has literally derogated from. And Exxon, it seems, could do what the hell it likes and can get off. And of course, although we got a judgment from Sandhill Kissoon stating that indeed we should have some company parent guarantee or guarantee from the parent company, he doesn't want that. He's appealing the decision. So a number of people that were independent thinking, and you got to understand this, David, I think you do. 80% of the black people can always vote for PNC or APNU. 80% of them East Indians can always vote for PPP. It is historically ethnical in that regard. And they can't transcend ethnic gravitations. But there is a 20% who can do that transcendence, as it were. And that is a set of people that has understood the mischief of Jagdeo, especially that 20% from the PPP side. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, we ain't going and vote. But it is even transcending into that other 80%. By for this election, local government elections, me ain't going and vote. What they do? What they do? And you go Port Morant and you ask them what they do. When the flood hit we, all over the Port Morant has been flooded up. And they don't come on time. And then when they come on time, they give one of the big contractor friend the contract, and he just go and do a little pat over or a paste over. And next thing, it broke again. Roads happening to, it's happening to infrastructural works and so on. And the people see who is getting rich within these communities. It is friends, families, favorites, flatterers. Yes, and they effing up the system. So that is what you got. And they said, me and turning up. Me and turning up. And a number of them did not turn up. And that is why from the GCOM now, you got what? It came out with a statistic, I think only 37% of the list of voters, that is their list of voters, which obviously we would have to go by at this time.
Right.
Did not, only 37% turned up, 63% did not turn up. And that shows how people, are getting very in a state of apathy, as it were, in relation to local government elections. And these elections, local government that is so important elections. It also helps in educating young people from these various communities as to how to understand the organization of politics at that front end level. Not only a party level now, but how you're going to administer the affairs of the men in your and women in your community. How you got to budget, how you got to do the garbage collection, how you're going to do the minor infrastructural works, what village taxes you're going to take, how to make that rate and what it is. And then they get to understand the difficulties of how to manage the affairs of men. And that is why it is an important thing, because as we get better with local government elections, our general electorate, our general population will appreciate that this thing, politics, is not easy as they like to think in the rum shop or they need the wedding house tent or so on. That is something that could be educational for them. And so in that sense, we must have it as regularly as possible. We in the coalition government had it twice. We kept our promises to the people that we will have local government elections. We had it twice. The PPP, and especially the Jagdeo regime, didn't have it after 1994. None. And now, 2.5 years into their government, or 3 years, then they are having the first one. So that's my what you call introspection or retrospection into our local government elections. But it's a lot of work that we have to do, because it also sends the message out to even the Alliance for Change as to what and where the support basis could be, and what are the issues that we have to deal with now that we got to prepare for a 2025 scenario.
Yes, leader of the AFC here, Khemraj Ramjattan. Khemraj, your party has opted out of the coalition. My party opted out of the APNU since immediately after the election. Is the AFC still committed to coalition politics and power sharing?
I am absolutely personally at that level committed to it. I think that is the only way that we can go to ensure that you have a livable democracy. Um, but the coalition arrangements will have to be arrangements that we can work along with. We do not want big player, and little player is down the caste, as it were, like a being treated like a Dalit, or even worse. So we will have to, and that goes for the other small parties that might want to be like WPA
Yeah.
and so on. So we have to have what is called partnerships in the arrangements, more than hierarchical
Yes.
stratification, and so on. So it is very important that we understand that that kind of coalition will work. We feel that it is the only way, and at a practical, pragmatic level, to get a government like the PPP out from power, you have to go coalition, because the constitutional amendment that talks about, like in the 1964 Constitution,
Right.
where you can have a
A coalition
coalition
after
after
the,
the
yes,
elections. It is not in operation under our constitution since the 1980 scenario, when Bonham changed up the constitution. And so we might be forced to go into that kind of coalition arrangement the next time. But of course, as I have said, democratically, that will have to be decided by my membership at a party's national conference. A lot of people don't understand why, because strategically, to win the PPP, you sometimes have to do this thing. However, I must tell you that once, of course, there is a constitutional amendment in this new constitutional process that we will soon have, hopefully it will be done in 2024, as our Attorney General, my good friend Anil Nandlal, is saying, that we can get a constitutional amendment that goes back like in the 1964 period, whereby post coalition arrangements can determine who the presidency will go to,
right,
or who the
right,
government will go to,
right, right,
right? And once you get that, you can run separate, get the amount of seats, and then you can tell whosoever you got to tell, if it's the president, the past president, that the majority has been won by these two political parties and so on. And then you can get that going, just like how in those 64 time, you could tell the governor general that UF and the PNC has gotten the largest confidence of the members of the National Assembly, and then Bonham became the prime minister, although the PPP had the most seats, although not a majority. And so that is the kind of arrangement that we will be looking forward to in 2024. It is an important constitutional amendment. But again, I don't know if the APNU people are going to support it, or the PPP will support it. I doubt whether the PPP will support it. I don't know about the APNU yet. But whatever it is, you will need, I think, a two-thirds majority for
two-thirds
that.
majority. Yes, you need a two-thirds majority.
Sure.
Khemraj, you mentioned the local government election and the PPP's mantra that it was going to win more support, or win a lot of support in the African Guyanese community, to the point where it felt it could take those big municipalities. Of course, we know in politics there's always an objective. And we know that over the last 3 years, the opposition, we've been pointing out that there's been a lot of racial discrimination, and the PPP, on the other hand, has been saying no. In fact, it declared itself before the local government election as the most multiracial party in the country. Now we know how ridiculous that is. But to put itself out on a limb and made such a ridiculous declaration, it must have had something in mind. We didn't know then that the US Secretary of State was coming. And the US State Department has said on more than one occasion that the PPP should be more inclusive.
That's
both
right.
at the level of governance and at the level of economics. Could it be that they were making that big splash in order to preempt the US Secretary of General coming to say, well, look, we just won Georgetown and Linden and so on. We are multiracial. Your criticisms are out of order. Over to you, Khemraj Ramjattan.
Oh yes, that is obviously why they strained themselves, as it were. The effort was almost Herculean to win in these areas, so that at least they will have the propaganda to put to Blinken that we won, that obviously was one of their ultimate purpose. And of course, they want to spend monies in municipalities and NDCs that they have won. Now that the APNU and mentors, now the mayor and so on, I hope that they do not become that vindictive, that indeed the PN APNU has won, the opposition forces have won, and mentor is now the mayor, and look, we're not going to give them any monies and financial support and subventions and contributions for bettering the city. Because if they look bad in the city, if the city looks bad, they will be the ones who are going to be to the detriment, be detrimentally looked at as doing bad. But, you know, they wanted also, as you rightly said, to look good, that we multiracial. They know that. Inside of the PPP, they know that it is a very difficult to get the APNU or then PNC. When I was in there, it was PNC, to get PNC supporters across. It's a very difficult thing in a multi-ethnic society like this. But to fool people that, yes, they are multiracial. They're not multiracial. Because if they were multiracial, they should have put on the website all the people who got the fraud relief. And you're going to see how many East Indians, if not 99% of East Indians, got flood relief. Although people who were flooded out too was a lot of black people. They don't want to do that. They don't want to also put how many of the fishermen got relief. You would see they got a lot of black fishermen in this country, you know. Just like there's a growing set of inside of the cane sector, the sugar cane sector. Let it put how much of these fishermen, who were given $250,000, $1 million, whatever. Let it put there in the website, if it is 10,000 names, all who got money for the COVID relief. You're going to see how much black people are excluded. That is why they do not want transparency. Because the transparency will be the best evidence of their discrimination. And I put it even worse. The humiliation of the black people in this country. It's a lot of talk. Oh, look, we buy over what a lady named the mayor of Georgetown. We do this, we do that. We get this and we not buy the, we cross them over and so on. So we gonna win them over. So whatever it is, you gonna get you one or two like that. But as you know, one swallow don't make a summer. And they feel that they're gonna get summer after the elections and so on. They ain't get a summer. But you know, Jagdeo believes that he could do and get anything he wants. and he led them into this. And now, what has happened too, if I may tell you, is a lot of the East Indians now are vexed with them because apparently they did see for themselves how under the red t-shirt had a $20,000, literally buying the votes. And a lot of them say, I take your eyes and pass a big East Indian people, no? You gone and you give the black people them red shot and 20,000, 100,000, whatever. You don't give me nothing. You take we vote for granted. Well, we ain't going and vote. That is what they told them. They're going and do what is called thank you meetings and so on. The people telling them, even at the thank you meetings, they can't get support. This is what thank you for. You gone and give them, but come 2025, you go, want me to vote for you.
Yeah.
And you might even give them again. Well, it don't work, so. You better make the country run properly. Then we're going to come out and vote for you. So they are on a big test, the PPP. And so their discrimination is well known by their omission to be transparent. When you don't want to be transparent, then you got something to hide. You're acting stealthily and secretively. Why you want to be secretive about how many is about 5 billion or more monies that we doled out for these fraud relief and this fisherman relief and COVID relief and all the reliefs. As soon as a flood happened, especially in East Coast or the quarantine area, flood relief, because they get plenty money now that the coalition signed on to that agreement, and the agreement is now bringing in benefits, almost 3.5 billion US dollars they have now collected. That's a lot of money, far more than sugar, rice, gold, and bauxite make a year the oil is bringing in. And so they don't know what to do, but on good, prudent economics, no, they know to discriminate. And that is why I am pleading with the agriculture minister, put it on your website, all who get flood relief. And then you're going to see, even if there are some black names there, you're going to see that, let's say they had a whole set of cattle that died or rice fields that get flooded out, they get far less than the equivalent of an East Indian brother. And they humiliate. I mean, this is the same government that dismantled all them black people house all over the place. And they're going to say that they are multiracial. God damn it. So, and the public servants and so on that they mistreat and all kind of thing.
Khemraj Ramjattan here tonight, giving his take on the PPP's pitch to impress the United States, which had called on them to be more inclusive. Directly so. Khemraj, the U.S. Secretary of State, came today. I think by now he must have left. And he had meetings and so forth. What's the significance of that visit against the backdrop of the Secretary of State then in 2020, the U.S. Secretary of State getting directly involved in the 2020 elections before the results were announced, formally announced, imposing sanctions on one actor, really clearly getting the US involved. And then that Secretary of State came here 2 or 3 weeks after that election. You're a lawmaker. You can tell us whether you all were apprised of what agreements that were made between the then Secretary of State and the government of Guyana. Against that backdrop, tell us how significant this visit by Mr. Blinken is.
No, it is very significant, and I'm very happy as a Guyanese and as a Guyanese politician and member of parliament that he attended to our territory in just, although he just spent a short time, it is significant for the fact of his attendance here in Guyana. Guyana, of course, is making the rounds internationally because we have now become an oil producer that is big enough to shake up a lot of places. And even OPEC is recognizing Guyana because of that oil agreement signed by the coalition government, and the fact that so much, hundreds of thousands of barrels are being produced per day. And in another 3 years, we can even reach 1 million barrel per day mark. And I believe that because of our positioning in South America, next to Venezuela, next to big Brazil, and all of that, we are going to be placed, our destiny, that is going to be even more closely tethered to the America. It has always been very close. And we have seen it from since pre-independence days and all of that. As a matter of fact, they had a lot of damning things against my mentor, Dr. Jagan. And in my view, they threw him out of government and all of that. But in 92, they kind of mitigated by putting him, or at least ensuring that he got back in. But they're also concerned in a high-stakes territory as Guyana, namely because of the oil, and oil has its significance. Remember, America has got forever permanent interests. It doesn't necessarily got permanent friends. And the oil in Guyana is what is going to make America get plenty interest here. And to that extent, we got to appreciate that if they want to have Guyana as a partner, they must also want the added attributes outside of the oil interest. And that is what they call democracy. And democracy for them means not only free and fair elections, it also means good governance, the rule of law, the respect of human rights for virtual complainants, like that girl inside Dharamlal's alleged rape and sodomy and all of that. So it is important that they would want to see us grow as a... And you know, the other big thing about us is that our population, diaspora population, is so big in America. We got approximately 600,000 Guyanese living in America, or people of Guyanese parentage. You know, it is very, very important too that the American society understands a big role that they have to play in this country. Remittances last year was more than 100 million US dollars. I think it's far more than that comes from the diaspora from America. It's a big set of monies. It has been the monies that has kept the Guyanese prior to this oil agreement managing to survive. Of course, things are very difficult in America now. I don't think we're going to get this the large amounts that we used to have. But all of that means that there is this nexus, navel string kind of connection of America and Guyana. Guyanese play a big role in certain Senate seats for the New York Congress and for the New York politics. I think Guyanese, you know, get some of these guys voted in, and they want, when they do that as a return, see what Guyana's government is doing to Guyanese.
Right.
I know Hakeem Jeffries was very instrumental in making some statements too about discrimination in Guyana, and there have been other congressmen and women who have done that. We speak English as the only South American country that speaks English. Our system is patterned more or less along the Westminster system, but it has a combination now of presidentialism that is similar in the Constitution of USA. As a matter of fact, when we did that 2-term limit to a presidency by saying 2 terms and no more, I was part of that PPP then. We made sure that it was patterned after the American system. That is why I am so vexed about what Barajagde was doing. He has bypassed that system and put himself as president de facto. Of course, Irfan is de jure the president, but the de facto man, he talks on oil, he talks on this, he talks on everything. Every week he got public interview with the press and so on. He runs this country literally. And what he is doing there is bypassing the provision that says 2-term and no more, and also the conventions around that 2-term limit, where as soon as you serve your 2-term, you come off the scene. You let the other person have the say and become, the general, as it were. But he wants to be the general and another person the president, and literally cut the man's throat. And that is what's happening. I don't know how the dignity of Irfan Ali is being affected by it all, but it's absolutely an interference from Jagdeo, knowing very well that the Constitution said 2 terms and no more. So coming back to the point, we pattern ourselves, even with this amendment to our Constitution about presidentialism, we pattern it after America too. And so there's so many things in consonance and very, patterned after the Americans, our politics, our economy. We want a rule of law society, but we want a market economy and so on. And that is why America find it very significant now to send its Secretary of State to talk to us. The oil being, of course, the most important, but also the politics and the warning this government. Little by little, you could see them nudging them. Get your act together.
Yes.
Understand the conventions of the Constitution. Get a minister who has serious allegations have been made against. Get him out from there. I am certain that there might have been some behind the scenes work. And I'm glad for it. But they must do a lot more than behind the scenes. They must condemn publicly what we're going to soon talk about, I think.
Yes. And one of the things about today's visit, I'm hearing unofficially that there was a meeting with the leader of the opposition. And if that is true, then that also is very, very significant.
People very significant. I want to make a word of that. I missed that.
Yes, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
A lot of people saying that we should not have had only the leader of the opposition. Mm-hmm. But the Americans, in relation to a visit like this, set the agenda. Yeah. And I want us not to start quarreling amongst ourselves within the opposition. Yeah. If the leader of the opposition was invited, the leader of the opposition must go. And I am absolutely certain that Aubrey Norton would have talked all the things that we all would have wanted to talk about and tell Mr. Blinken. Okay? And so I don't want us to start becoming disunited, because I see in some of the strings and so on, some people start saying, but why Aubrey didn't call in Mr. Ramjattan? Oh, Mr. Ramjattan is now and nothing, and so on and so on and so on. I agree. And I'm very happy of the development that they have wanted somebody from the opposition and so on, and that he went. And so it is significant too, in that regard, that they're now paying attention to the opposition by virtue of at least having a private meeting with such an important player, cabinet member out of America, having an opposition leader there, our opposition leader. We are still APNU AFC in the parliament, and he's our opposition leader.
Yes.
And if
I share your view too, as an opposition person, that at least somebody representing our side of the aisle was there. And from what I'm hearing behind the scenes, it was a good meeting. It was a very, very good meeting, and I'm happy about that. People were asking me on the picket line today whether he was meeting with Mr. Norton. I could not answer at that time because I did not have that information. But I subsequently learned that Mr. Norton did meet with him, and that the meeting was a good meeting. And in this, that's big. That's big.
Very big.
Very big. That he met with the opposition.
Khemraj, and the PVP not gonna like it, PVP not gonna like it.
No. I had a quick word with the opposition leader. No big details, but he did confirm that it was a very fruitful meeting. So I think that's a big plus for those of us on the side of the opposition. Khemraj, let's pivot to this Dharamlal thing. You were involved at a particular level, but let's start first of all with your general take on the whole arc of this thing. You're a lawyer. You know something about investigations. You know something about the law. Well, more than something about the law. Um, are you satisfied? Are you satisfied that this whole thing? Are you satisfied that the system worked?
No, no, no. I've already again made mention. It was probably the event that saw the destruction of those state institutions dealing with sexual offenses. You got to understand, David, that in 2010, a most modern piece of legislation was passed in this country to deal with young people who are sexually abused, and also in relation to all victims of sexual offenses. A special regime was created for young people who are vulnerable, who we know have tremendous problems, shyness, and they don't want to talk their story. They're so distraught. They're so psychologically distressed, and the mental health goes quickly. And so you cannot have what we call the hard-hitting policemen taking statements from them. And so they created protocols for child advocate agencies, and they created certain protocols around which you got to do investigation. We even changed the law, which previously had required that you had to get corroboration. The child must be sworn, and so on. Unsworn evidence in a court of law now could convict somebody. You don't need corroboration from some other source that indeed the child was sexually molested and abused and sodomized and raped and all of that, or groomed, and even that. And almost all of those offenses are alleged here by the girl, first of all, in her social media account, which was carried since the June 16th, as to what happened in December. And then later on, in two statements that I now know, because somebody gave me the statements from the ministry there, as to what and what she said happened to her after she was taken into protective custody. The very two early statements that she gave, right up to, I think, 2020, the 20th of June, right? And these things clearly are cogent, compelling evidence upon which you can lay a charge against Dharamlal for all these things. If I was a prosecutor and was asked to advise on a file that got statements to this effect, charge him. You got now nothing more. And more than just that, based on that kind of thing that I have seen now in that girl's statement, hush money was paid to the parents. The scene of the crime was altered. All of that. And you want to tell me that you still didn't have a case? You wait with her for a further 6 days. And what is of tremendous importance and significance is that I was asked by the mom to go and check on her on the 21st of June.
Right.
She asked me on the 20th at a nighttime call that she made to me. Apparently, she heard about the Tyan Thomas case. Remember that Amerindian boy that had burnt and so on? So
Yes.
they feel that, Ramjattan is a pretty good lawyer or whatever. So she gave me a call, and I said, all right, I will go. Morning time, I landed there. And do you know, they start telling me, these officials at the ministry building in Commonwealth Street there, they start telling me a whole set of things about I can't. It is not part of the protocol that they could allow the mother to bring in a private independent lawyer and so on. I said, but what's going on? If the entire concept of in the best interest of the child is at play here, and the mother wants, and the child, I understand, wants a lawyer, why are you denying me? I want to see the girl. They said the girl is not there. She's dead somewhere at Blossom, some other place. I said, well, okay, could I be permitted because it's y'all are in charge here? I can go to Blossom. No. The protocol doesn't say that you can get independent legal advice. And that is why I'm saying, as a result, 6 other days in what you call incognito, secretly held in protective custody.
Yes.
Must have broken that girl. She can't see nobody that is independent of her mom. And even her mom, she couldn't see because they got her there. And what you think that they were doing, at least at the very beginning, it looked like they did a pretty good job. Thereafter, what? For the statement for what? For the statement for what? You got enough, and the girl was saying that. Ultimately, the girl in frustration had to tell the police. And you know what, too? The police, like, they only want to hear the girl say that. As soon as the girl say that, they bring it out publicly. Yes. Why don't the police bring out publicly what the girl said that the minister did to her? No. But no further action will be taken. That is where the girls sign up now. In frustration, of course. But they're gone quickly. They put that out in the public. That one named Khemraj Shivbaran. The girl was then taken to some Essequibo police station. He quickly write up something and sign it. The girl retracted. Why do retractions have a special significance about them as against what she said to the Blossom people in that forensic interview? And when you read that statement, it is sufficient. Any one of we, if that was said by any other girl against us, them police might would have done lock we ass up.
Yes.
Lock we up.
Long time.
Go to court and said no bail. But this chap here get off. But as I said, the shame is greater than the exoneration. And the first time that the president would have seen this thing or ask about it, the president had to knock this chap off if he didn't want to tender his resignation. Under Westminster-type democracies, whenever the indiscretion is made like this and comes to be known publicly, the boss that be, whether he's president or prime minister, asks the minister, hold on a minute. I think you have committed a personal indiscretion. Notwithstanding, you might not be charged or you might not be convicted if you are charged. Just like A.J. Simpson. He get off from the case. But who you think murder his wife and the wife boyfriend? Is O.J. Simpson's. I said A.J. O.J. Simpson. Yes. But we could all talk about it. Because on the public platform, we know what the girl had said. And as a president, you should say, hey, come about, resign. Don't tell me that you want administrative leave. You know? And then all his cabinet ministers ought to have told him, here, this fella got forgot. Now, when charges have been dropped, no. And let me tell you something. A lot of other people have made allegations of this sort. A girl from New York. One girl from Essequibo. And people know about this chap bad behavior. He behaved so thoroughly bad in Parliament. Oh, he called people, them girls in Parliament and so on. And then he made a dildo comment. He pulled gun on an IDB official. All this thing. And they make him minister, senior minister. The thing stinks to high heavens because 2 things. It shows the quality of the people the PPP like to put in together in cabinet. And secondly, our institutions dealing with sexual offenses have been made questionable, and that questionable nature will live with it for a while to come. it got a lot of work to undo this misadventure.
Khemraj, you were Home Affairs Minister directly, with oversight of the police force. Um, could 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 not could the Home Affairs Minister, could he not have said to the police from Shivbaran right down to Blanham and so on that this thing is not looking good, guys? Get your act together.
Well,
Would that have been interference?
no, because you're telling them to administer in accordance with your policy, which is
Yes,
professionalism.
yes,
That is not interference.
right.
I mean, they got some times when I was public security minister in that ministry. There were people who come and said that there are rogue elements that want to bribe. A whole set of minibus drivers had come. And they tell me that the thing gone up to some inspector level. I said, what? And then I said, we can have to set up some people here now. And when the fella called, I just tell the man in charge at Sparnam, give the fella the money to pay as pay. And then call in the man immediately and take the money out of his pocket. You just got to mark the money.
Yeah.
You know? And it happened. And then the inspector went and said, open the pocket there. Is a private ranker in this case. The lower rank, constable. And he find him. About 68 people like that, not necessarily in those same circumstances, but I had to tell the police, this man is making this allegation all the time that they want bribe, they want bribe, they want bribe. Look, the man must be talking the truth. Just do the thing that I'm arranging, because as a prosecutor, when I was at the DPP's chambers, that is how we used to advise that to set it up, so that you'll have the straight up evidence that he's caught, as it were, in flagranto delicto, in the act. And so we got about 6 to 9 of them rogue elements were knocked off during my 5-year period. And that is how you bring back professionalism, because when people feel that there is going to be an impunity, you're never going to get professionalism. And especially when it deals with big officers like ministers, permanent secretaries, and all of them, when they feel that they could get off, and then it has a nasty impact on the smaller man. Well, if them big boys could thief and rape, me can thief and rape too. And then your whole society goes haywire. And that is the danger about this thing. That is why I'm saying that we will pay a big price. Because whenever a police force catch a big boy, the police force does get good kudos.
Mm-hmm.
Not only the deterrent the effect of making other small players commit crimes, but when true professionalism prevails and they catch a big boy, everybody can say them police by good boy. That was brave. That was professional. But what we got here? So it will dampen spirits all across. It is going to make people vindicate their sentiments that the police force has not professionalized, and a whole host of things. It will also vindicate their sentiments about the new Sexual Offences Act, new regime in relation to child protection officers and so on, like it in walking, and especially in the context of denying the child access to her lawyer. That is terrible. And that is why I am asking the government of Guyana, the president, commit to an international body of experts from the United Nations Child Commission and the UNICEF people to come in here to investigate what transpired here that could have led to the breakdown of that girl. And so resignation of the government minister, in this case, the subject minister, is not a resolution.
It's not.
That is a good statement made by one of your by you when you made it just now. I even made a note of it. Lovely
Yes.
statement.
Yeah,
Resignation is not resolution.
it's not resolution. I saw it on one of the placards today.
Oh,
You
that
were
is
out there.
excellent. Right. That
Yes,
was bright. That was
yes,
smart.
yes. It caught.
And so we have to go and further find out. Whenever big incidents like this happen, you need a commission of inquiry.
Yeah.
Always must have it. It helps us to understand the lessons of that event and what should be some recommendations to remedy the situation so that in future it will not be occurring. So I hope that that will be done. But I
Yes.
believe that we have to press on and then get people forcing the president into a commission of inquiry of that sort.
And of course, there's talk, Khemraj, about bringing a personal charge and civil proceedings. But some people are pointing out that all those things will go back to the DPP and wouldn't go anyway. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I have given it some thought, and from my experience as a lawyer and my learning, the fact that the girl has made that statement that no further police action might ground non-prosecution. But when the file was sent back for further investigation, uh, you see,
Yeah,
DPP
yeah,
could be judicially reviewed. A DPP's decision could be judicially reviewed,
right.
right? So even if she sent it back for further investigation, the reasons why and why send it back when you had sufficient evidence, and
Yeah.
it could bring out a lot of
And
difficult
that's what I want to
situations.
ask you. I know as a lawyer, you all have your ways of learning things. Do you like have a sense of the file that she sent back? What what were her concerns when she
Well, I
sent
hope
that?
that there were genuine concerns, like
Yeah.
probably,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. I hope that there were genuine concerns. That is why she sent it back. Because each day that the child is in protective custody, a prosecutor and even a DPP official who is part of that new regime too, they know the psychological stress that girl is going through. They will have to know that indeed that will be increased by further protective custody of the child.
Yes,
And
yes.
they on so it is, you got to get some good grounds. I don't know if she wanted to verify now other offenses like the hush money offense and so on, and probably that is why. But at the level of whether it is rape or not, it is my legal opinion that it quantified that there was quantifiable evidence there, cogent and compelling.
Yeah. You know, Paul Slaughter reminded me on this show that a young lady, a young girl from my village, Buxton, um, had alleged that she was raped, and the police conducted an interview with her in the presence of the alleged rapist. And the young girl went home and committed suicide.
That's right. All
Yeah,
of that is in that new regime. You
yeah.
can't do it like that because the
Right.
pressures we now know, and that is why that modern piece of legislation. When you go and you read the speeches, man, of Anil Nandalal, Priya Manik Chan, Frank Anthony, them boys was that rich man. How brilliant a piece of legislation we have to look after the victim. All the cross examiners, like, and they pointed out to me like Ramjattan and them over there. They can't do certain things now. They can't make certain submissions. Like we have to have corroboration and so on and so on and so on. I said no. I agree with it.
Mhm.
I agree with totally with it because I know how the advantages is taken and how especially big boys, especially when they know the police, what can happen. And so I was very proud, and that is why we had Sarah Punalal speak on it, our MP at that stage, and she's totally supported it. And we had other bills that night, I think, and I didn't speak on it, but we supported. We all voted for it
Yeah, yeah,
because it was a proud moment for me. Because
yeah.
even in the PPP, I had said that yes, we have to have new sexual offences regime and so on. And I was happy that indeed it was laid by Priya Manik Chan, who was also a member associated with me in her legal practice initially.
Right, 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 right.
So I was very, very proud. But all have come to naught in this case.
In this case, in this case,
Zero or minus.
in this
And it's
case,
a
in this
shame
case.
and a disgrace.
Shame and disgrace, share and disgrace, and only conforms what some of us believe, that this is turning out to be a rogue government, a rogue government. Khemraj, as we run out of time, your closing thoughts.
Well, I like this fact that we could speak here, we could talk, and educate the people about all these issues. And it is important that people pay attention to it. I know that the PPP, especially under its General Secretary, Bar Jagdeo, whenever we do programs like these, he gets very angry. And he starts doing a lot of things to set people up all over the place and tell them that Ramjattan must not be going into your territory and chase him out and this and that and whatever. But I want to tell Bharat, even on this program, allow the democracy to flourish. You should go on pasture. Let Irfan Ali, who seems to be less heartless than you, Jagdeo, run the country. You're not needed there. And we have to start plugging away that 2-term limits means that you can't come back as a vice president and run a third term, because it's the same thing you'll do 2025 too. Assuming they win, he gonna want to be president again. The chap likes power, and he don't want to give it up. And that is why I've begged Irfan Ali on several programs, treat him like how he treated Janet Jagan.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you're a private citizen now. Go and pasture. And the lady after that never ever went back to Freedom Ocean. So that is what their fans should do. I think we will have a better country in the absence of Jagdeo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Khemraj. Thank you for coming through for us as usual. And I want to thank all of you for staying with us tonight. One of our brothers here, Mr. Morgan, is charged for a comment he made on this program. He's charged under the cybercrime law, and is slated to go to court on Tuesday. We're trying to put things together. And it's so easy to charge ordinary people for stupidness, flimsiness, and so difficult to charge someone for the kind of offense that this man was accused of. And in the end, he's walking scot-free as far as the law is concerned. It's the type of country that we're in. I want to thank you all of you, for ensuring that we are building a movement. I want to thank all those of you who are out there today, lifting your voices and letting the Secretary of State and the Americans know that we do not believe that this government is a legitimate government. We know the satellites were all there and picking up what was going on. So although they sped the secretary into State House and cordon off half of the town, we know that the technology is there for them to know. I want to thank all of you who came out. I saw Red Thread was out there also protesting. I want to, of course, thank them for letting their voices be heard from their own perspective. All those of you who I managed to speak with today, I want to thank you. Special thanks to the ladies from Grove, who were there, and all the others. The women led that protest today. Led that demonstration today. I don't want to just say it's a protest, because it sounds like we were protesting against the Secretary General. No, it was a demonstration to let the Secretary of State know that he was sitting there with a government which just condoned a heinous act by one of its own and manipulated the rule of law, manipulated the system so that that person could get off. Guyana is our Guyana. Guyana belongs to all of us. And we have to pledge that we will not stop. We will not stop until we straighten all the crooked corners of our country. It's the best time for our country since emancipation, since the village movement, when our people humanize our country. We have a chance now with the oil wealth, and we have a government that is standing in the way. And we have to continue. We have to continue to work. The PPP represents almost half of the electorate. We understand that. And we're not saying that the PPP should not be part of governance. What we are saying is that the PPP cannot be trusted to govern alone. They've proven to be a rogue government. That's the topic of our show tonight. A rogue government. A rogue government just run amok. The struggle goes on. The struggle goes on. Don't let up. Don't let up. Don't let up. Because the minute we relax, something else is going to happen. I love you all. Thank you for coming through as usual. And tomorrow night we will be back to continue this struggle to better our country, and to humanize our country again. Because without our humanity, we are nothing. And our humanity is under assault. Our humanity is under assault. We come in peace and we leave in peace and come back tomorrow to continue the struggle. Good night.